Hey, Pusnet, a short video. This one, it's kind of something that uh, recently I just watched a video of Scrubs, and it'll be down, and this is why I didn't call it this, but it's kind of a weird title, constipation, but basically it all comes down to poops. You'll have a little song about it. I guess it's nursing humor. But recently I had a patient, and I did a type of enema that, and you'll have the recipe. I think it come from the Mayo Clinic because we call it the Mayo enema. I couldn't find exactly the Mayo Clinic endorsing or not, so I don't want to go too much about it, but we call it the Mayo enema, and it's a recipe, and it works very well. Yeah. And so why talking about constipation? And again, it will be just a small video concept. So the reason that I want to talk about that is that a lot of conditions, especially in self-reliance, we may be subject to that. A lot of people talk about diarrhea, and we talk about that in infectious disease, but constipation doesn't come as well, as much as a topic. And there'll be links on two articles that I would recommend to read, because like anything, just be aware, because I mean I'm giving a quick recipe, and the reason that I was reminding of this recipe is because it's easy and it would be available to most people, because you would be using brown sugar, which pretty much everybody have, and sodium bicarbs, which pretty much everybody has also in their cupboard. So it makes a very easy recipe to do. So why enemas? So when it comes to constipation, there's basically what happens is that the stools, for whatever reason, don't go down, and then it stays into the bowels, and the water that we need to extract, so we don't lose that much water, because again, if you go in the opposite, for example in diarrhea, you have too much water, and this is why you lose all those stools. Is that constipation, actually the issue is the opposite, is that the water is reabsorbed, and so basically now you have this big hard things. And so there's different ways of approaching it, and in the article the whole talks, I don't want to, but basically you can either softening the stools, so basically instead of this hard rock, you softening it, but one of them can be an enema. And the reason of this, why constipation could be an issue, is that especially if you start eating a lot of dehydrated food or MRE, that could become one of the big issue. Or if you don't have as much fibers, because you're limited in the water you have, so you don't drink as much as you should, and so constipation can become and it can be very painful, and actually even in some case create, so basically you have so much such a big ball of things blocking, is that basically it can create some urinary retention. So that means you cannot pee, because it's creating like a pressure at the bladder, and basically you cannot empty your bladder. It happens mostly in the pediatric, but I have seen it also in the elderly population. So it is possible. So here the recipe is basically how to administer a fleet enema, but instead of having whatever things you buy, basically you can make it your own way of doing those things. But you have to be obviously careful with enemas. A lot of people use them in different diets and things like that, but the problem is that you can create damage by either creating tears, because you're creating if this thing doesn't want so whatever, you have like this big rock that doesn't want to come down, and you're trying to push on that, you could create internal tears and damage, but also you could create some electrolytic imbalance and all that stuff. But as having another tools in your tool set, I think is a good idea. And I was reminded of that because a patient came and we used that recipe. So that's the second time I use it. So it's 2 hospital now that I work using that recipe. Anyway, it'll be down there, and down in the links there, the recipe of the enema. And yeah, I wanted just to do a quick video on clinical concept, because constipation may be an issue, and now you have like another set of tools to deal with it. So talk to you soon.